Hey, I'm Norb. I'm from Puerto Rico. I started Obscure Coffee here in Bushwick a couple years ago, and yeah, we're at the cafe right now. So it actually started as kind of like a joke. I was starting to learn roasting, and I had a group of friends who were also starting to learn. So we would meet every couple weeks and just trade the coffees that we had roasted. And I wanted to have like packaging for it, and I was like, I've always liked metal. I'm a big metal head, and I wanted to make it kind of like look like a metal band. So that's the logo, and I wanted it to be just like one word that was like, easy to remember and like recognizable, and then I just stick to it till now. I think when I started meeting people who work in the coffee industry and like seeing how passionate they were, and like also like all the innovation that there is in coffee, and also when I started meeting coffee producers that were coming to New York and sharing their coffees, talking about it, I just kind of fell in love with the process. To make sure your coffee is good, you have to start with good green coffee. So the first step is working with farms who take it very seriously and are innovating, or have like good quality control. Getting those samples from the farms and very little amounts, and we cup everything before we purchase any green coffee. And then once the coffee's here, making sure we're tasting the coffee, after we roast it, a couple weeks after we roast it, and see how it kind of performs and how it kind of changes over time. So when I started with a little popcorn popper. So like just like a little tiny machine, which is basically the same concept as a coffee roasting machine. It's like air and heat. So from that I got kind of like a coffee roaster that was same concept. It was also like fan and heat, but you could control all the variables. And then I went into a 1 kilo drum roaster, which is like a little more legit. Spent a couple months with that one. That was the one that like really helped launch the business. And then I kind of grew out of it, and now I roast with a 15 kilo air roaster. So here at Obscure, we focus on Latin American coffees, and we try to have a variety of them. Some that are like a little more traditional, like kind of nutty and chocolatey, but also leaning into the more experimental stuff. Coffee ferments. We had a blueberry coffee ferment from Colombia recently that everyone loved. It went by really fast, and yeah, we keep our roasts between like medium and medium light. We really want to highlight acidity and floral notes in the coffee, and we don't stick to just one roasting style. We just kind of go with whatever is good or whatever is better for the particular coffee. I'm really excited about Peru and Mexico. They're both, a lot of their coffee goes to like kind of blends, like espresso blends and that sort of stuff. But there's producers doing some really cool stuff, and getting a little more experimental with it. And we like highlighting, like micro lots from small producers that, have coffees that are very citrusy, very bright, very floral, that sort of stuff. I think one cool thing about Latin American coffee is that there's so many flavors. Like, even when you think of a Brazilian coffee, you typically think like nutty chocolate notes, but once you start digging more into it, you start finding coffees that are fruity and with higher acidity and floral notes. So yeah, there's a lot of different flavors to discover in Latin America. So I think as far as roasting, I think we try not to stick to like a particular roast style. And so we play around and try to find the roast style for the specific coffee, kind of highlighting the notes that the producer intended to be there. So we don't like to say we're a medium roaster or a light roaster. It just, you know, it's always going to depend on the raw material that we're starting with. I think, you know, Bushwick is a very Latino neighborhood, and you don't find a lot of representation in the coffee industry for Latinos. So I think having the shop in Bushwick is great because we definitely get a lot of Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and, you know, people from all over Latin America coming here and trying different coffees and, you know, finding new flavors that they've never experienced in coffee before. That's always a tough question because, like, you know, I didn't even think I was gonna open a shop. Like, I always thought it was just like I was just gonna be a roaster. And then one day I had the opportunity. You know, it was like something that we ended up building in like 2 or 3 months. So it was. So right now, I think it's just continue delivering great coffee and you know, connecting more with the community, doing more events at the space, and yeah. So my favorite brewing method, I think it changes, you know, depending on the day, but one of my favorites is using this Hyo switch. So it's basically a pour over, but with a option to do immersion, which typically we find that it highlights body, it kind of gets a little more extraction from the coffee without getting any bitterness, which is always kind of the goal. So you start with a paper filter. We give it a rinse to make sure the filter is stuck to the brewer. And I'm gonna be brewing coffee from Guatemala. It's the variety is Caturra. It's goes through a yeast inoculation. So yeasts that are used for making beer or wine get added to coffee, and it just kind of accentuates and like highlights different kinds of flavors. I love working with producers who are kind of innovating in coffee, you know, using yeast, using different fermentation techniques. It just adds value to the coffee. And it's really cool to experience like all kinds of different flavors. For example, this one we're brewing has like a really nice strawberry note and some florals kind of remind me of like rose petals, and has like a very juicy acidity. And specifically for this coffee, I decided to go with a pretty fast roast with very little development. So what that means, it's kind of like a light roast, and that kind of protects those floral notes and also the fruity notes, and it leaves us with like a really nice strong acidity. And we don't get any kind of roastiness or chocolate notes or nutty notes. You guys want to try it? And yeah, if you're ever in the neighborhood and like coffee, stop by. If I'm here, you know, have a lot to talk about it.